Hey, I'm Kathleen Jasper, and today we're talking about the teacher interview process and some typical questions you might get during your teacher interview and how to answer them. Let's get started. So, today I'm talking a little bit about how you should answer some of these typical questions you will encounter in an interview if you are applying for a teaching position. Now, this could be that you're a brand new teacher and you've never interviewed before, and this is your very first teaching position. Or it could be that you are transitioning to a different school. Lots of times around the second semester, around February or March, teachers start to think about, I wonder what it would be like to be under a different principal or to teach at this school, or maybe leave elementary and move to middle school or move to middle school to high school, those types of things. And so you will have to interview with a new principal. I used to interview new teachers with my principal. I was an assistant principal at the time, and I know several key questions that you will be asked in your interview. So take notes. Now, one of the things you will definitely be asked is something regarding the standards. So you might be asked, what do you use to guide your instruction? Or how do you develop your lesson plans? What they're trying to pull out of you is that you use the standards to plan instruction and to deliver the curriculum. The principal definitely wants to know that you will identify the standards for your content area and grade level, and that will be your guide to building lessons and delivering those lessons. So make sure in your interview, you reference the standards a lot because it's one of the most important things we can do as educators. The standards are set at the state level, and so they want to make sure you are implementing those standards. Another thing you want to focus on is how you will differentiate instruction. And so you might get asked a direct question like, how will you differentiate instruction? Or the principal might ask you something in a roundabout way, like, how do you help struggling students? These are both differentiation questions. And the principal wants to know that you're not just going to teach to the middle, that you are going to be able to differentiate for the students who are achieving at low levels, quote, mid levels or normal levels, and then your high achievers. You want to be able to challenge your high achievers and your mid level achievers because we always want to be pushing. And we want to support our low level learners, but also challenging them as well. All students can think critically about concepts and books and passages and math problems and everything else. So you always want to have an element of pushing the critical thinking, but you want to be prepared for students who need more support, especially students who are on IEPs. And then also, how do you keep your on-level students on level? Because they tend to fall back if we don't challenge them. So pushing them up. And then, of course, your high level students, how do we challenge them so they do not get bored and check out? So you're going to want to come up with a plan for that. Now, one of the easiest ways to do that is to talk about small group instruction. So breaking students up into small groups temporarily by their levels. We don't want to keep students in homogeneous groups. That's what it's called when you group people by level. That's homogeneous grouping because they're all the same. You want to typically have heterogeneous groupings. And I've done a lot of videos on this. I'll link them up here. But you can differentiate temporarily by using homogeneous groups, by maybe grouping together students at different levels and then challenging them. But if you use this approach, you want to make sure you tell your principal that those homogeneous groups are temporary. You don't want to give off the impression that you're going to keep students in leveled groups all the time because the research shows that that is not good. But temporary leveled groups is great because then you can differentiate based on what students need. But everybody should come back into the group once that differentiation is over. Another question principals love to ask is, how will you support reading in the content area? So if you are an elementary teacher, middle or high school, especially if you're a middle school social studies or a high school social studies or a middle school science or high school science, the principal will want to know your plan for supporting reading. The thing is that social studies and science on all levels, elementary, middle, and high, are an opportunity to help reinforce reading strategies. We read a lot in social studies. We read a ton in science. And the principal is going to want to know how you will help her school, become better at reading. Students struggle in reading typically across most schools. Students have to take that reading test at the end of the year. School grades are dependent on those reading scores. And so the principal wants to know that you are going to support those reading goals. Now, this can be done through content area reading and writing. This can also be done by making sure that you're following any reading initiatives given to the whole school. So typically every school has some sort of reading in the content area plan, that type of thing. And you can also work with reading coaches. If you're somebody who is brand new to teaching, you might say, I haven't implemented a reading plan yet, but I hope to work with a reading coach who could help me, implement this. One of the things about interviewing for a teaching position is that we want to know that you know where to go for help and how to get that information. So talking about the reading coach, talking about the reading program. Perhaps this school has its own sort of reading program you might want to mention that shows that you did your research on the school. All of that helps. And the last thing I'll touch on here is classroom management. You will most likely get a question about challenging students who are misbehaving. And so you want to be prepared to answer questions about your classroom management plan. Now, a couple ways in which you can do this is make sure that you have practice routines and procedures. Those keywords that I always use all the time when I'm talking about classroom management are key. And I have a lot of classroom management videos. I will link them up here. Also, making sure that students understand the expectations and that you're reinforcing those expectations. You may want to reference positive behavior interventions and supports if it is a PBIS school, and that's where you implement certain strategies based on positive behaviors rather than being punitive with negative behaviors. It's a whole thing, and I have videos on that as well. And you just want to make sure that you have some sort of classroom management plan. You don't want to just go in there blind before your interview and not have some sort of plan. So you want to have a plan for entering the classroom, transitioning between reading block and math block, or for a middle and high school teacher, maybe it's transitioning into groups or labs or whatever it is. You want to just set the foundation and let the principal know that you have a classroom management plan. It involves practice routines and procedures, and you plan to set clear expectations that are achievable by the students. Now, you can regurgitate that the way I just did, but the principal might know if you're a brand new teacher and you say that to her, that you maybe got it off the internet. So what you want to do is maybe grab what I just said and then, apply your own plan to it. Customize this so that it sounds like it's your plan and not my plan or the internet's plan. This is a great place to be when it comes to getting the initial information. And then you have to take what I say what others say, and kind of make it your own. That's really important when it comes to these interviews. Now, I have a class on the teacher interview process where I have tons of questions printed out. I go over each question and how to answer it, how to personalize it for elementary, middle, and high, how to personalize it for math and science, social studies, art, all of that. I have a way to help you with that. So if you are interested in that, let me show you where to get it. It's only $39.99. So this is our teacher interview course. You can get it by clicking online courses and just clicking this teacher interview course. And inside the course are different modules for each type of question you are going to have. So classroom management, lesson planning, classroom instruction, helping struggling students, miscellaneous. These are some things that I just kind of throw at you that you may get on the interview, and then of course ending the interview. Now you can see here for every single one, there is a detailed video. And then of course I have the questions for you. And what I do is I go through all of these questions and I tell you how to answer them at different levels, different content area, and different ways so that you can personalize it yourself. And I go through all of that. I even talk about how to end the interview. That can be sort of daunting when they ask you questions like, oh, do you have any questions for us? And how should you follow up and all of that? I have that all in this interview course. Now, this is only $39.99, so it's a great deal. So if you're interested in it, you can click the link in the description below and it'll take you to this course. All right, so I hope that helps you today with your teacher interview. You may not be interviewing until the end of this year or maybe the summer or whatever. I don't know when you're watching this video, but you can always be prepared for that interview and get thinking about, how would I engage with the principal? How would I want to answer her questions? What sort of things should I be kind of doing in my classroom also? Because the teacher interview course outlines what you should be doing in your classroom, and that will also help you with your evaluations. So that's very helpful as well. So if you have any questions, you can always email us at info@kathleenjasper.com. Consider liking this video and subscribing to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for everything, and have a great day.